Okay, let's go to our ASA. Side effect, or not really side effect, but a difference in the configuration on the ASA is that we use a mask, a standard mask, not a wildcard. And that should bring up an adjacency there. Some subtle differences between the ASA and those routers. And we can see our routers now have some log messages on the console. The little icons change to blue. Do a show OSPF neighbor. And there we go. We have the neighbor 1111. That's the router ID that I set for R1. And of course, we see his address, 172.16.10.1. And we have 10.0.1051. That's the neighbor for router 2. Okay, we've got basic OSPF. And that's area 0. Let's go back to that topology now. So we've got F00 on R1 configured, R2, and then our outside interface on the ASA configured. Now let's go ahead and bring the loopback interfaces in and on router 2, and we'll bring in area 100 on R1, and then we'll do area 13 on our ASA. Here I have loopbacks 1 through 5. And I can actually bring in an area without using a network statement. So I gave it the IP OSPF 1, that's the process ID, area 101 command there on loopback 1. Let's go over to R1 here. Show IP route and see what we've got. And here we have 10.0.1011. So it brought that in. I didn't even have to use a network statement. Now, you will notice that it came in as an IA. That's because it's in a different area. And if we look up the code there for an IA route, that's OSPF inter-area routing. Let's go on back over to router 2. Let's bring the other loopback interfaces in. Before I do anything more on loopback 2, I want to show you the interface. The command I did here is a show IP OSPF interface. It's showing me interface specific values related to OSPF. We can see on Fast Ethernet 00 that the type of interface there is broadcast. Now notice this, when I get down here to loopback 1, the network type is loopback. Loopback 2, the network type is loopback. So I'm going to say we're going to change this to point-to-point. And then we'll issue that command again, do show IP OSPF interface, and we'll see here, actually let's filter this a little bit. Let's include the word up and type. Okay, so there's Fast Ethernet 00, and it is broadcast. Here is loopback 1, and it is loopback. And here's loopback 2, and it is point-to-point. Now let's go over to router 1. Take a look at our routing table. And you'll notice a difference now between the way that we are presented with loopback 1's route, which is a 32-bit route because it's a loopback. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just a single host. And loopback 2's route, which is now showing as a /24 because we changed the network type to point-to-point. Okay, so now it shows it as a 24-bit network. Not really sure if we were to just look at this, we don't know whether or not that's a loopback. We know this is a host route. We know it's a loopback because it's a 32-bit route. Let's go back over here to R2. Let's bring in the other interfaces. So here's 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so we've got all of R2's routes in. We did not use network statements to bring those in. I'm going to use a network statement on R1 to bring our additional network in. so that you can see the difference here. Not a big deal, but good to see. We're going to bring in the 198.51 network now. He's going to be in area 100. Go to router OSPF 1. Put him in area 100. And then let's go over to our ASA, and we're already in the process there. So let's put 192.168.45 in area 13. Okay, so now let's go look at router 1. Look at the OSPF database. And so we're seeing area 0. Okay, so router 1 sees area 0. And we see the router link states, followed by the network link states, followed by the summary network link states. We also see area 100 because we have an interface in area 100 there. So these links up here, 10.0.101 through 105, we're receiving summary link state information from them, and they're actually in a different OSPF area, but we don't have an interface in that area. So we're going to show it as a summary network link state. And the interfaces that we actually do have in the area, we'll see those listed under our network link states and our router link states more specifically. Network link states we're going to see for our Ethernet networks. Okay, so we have a full table here with OSPF. Take a look at our routing table. And now we've got a bunch of IA routes. We have that one that's different for loopback 2 because we changed the network type to point-to-point. The rest are /32s because the network type is loopback. And then we have the IA/24 for 45, which is coming from our ASA. So we've got some basic OSPF configured here.